Fire Emblem Three Houses is the age-old story of a project with crazy high ambitions, but not the execution or time frame to achieve half of what it could have. It flirts with numerous ideas like politics, a lively world, different story routes, without fully committing or going all the way with these various concepts. For example, you have all these cities and countries on the map with just service decorations instead of actually being well integrated into the narrative. Another example, the game wanted 3 routes, but they don't differentiate them enough to actually incentivize players to check out all other paths. Why is the White Clouds route the same for every class? Byleth is assigned the same mission despite most of the White Clouds maps being utter shit, and even if they were good, the lack of variety would surely get boring, you know? You can't even fully explore different classes this early in the game, so the experience would be somewhat similar even with a different starting roster. It's foolishness. So many of Three Houses' selling features just tend to be undercooked BS that failed at some foundational level. And the subject of this video is no different. I'm talking about being an instructor to your units at the Garrick Mach Monastery. The player character being a teacher is single-handedly the most flopped concept in the game because unlike the 3 routes, where part of the appeal still remains, and the world building, which somehow tricks people into thinking it was good, there is not really anything redeemable or interesting about the execution of teacher gameplay in Three Houses, as most players find it to be a chore and it lacks any of the narrative weight or in depth I would expect from this role. So here we are with the unrealized potential of Byleth, a teacher player character. The problem with Byleth being a teacher is that this relationship dynamic between Byleth and their students is not explored much at all for us to get truly invested in the role. Let's get informal for a second. Does Byleth feel like a teacher at all? We all went to school, we've all been taught. Does Byleth give off any sort of authority or passion for helping students learn, or a deep hatred for their job? Keeping it real, there were 2 types of teachers: hated you and their job, fuck you Lisa Brown, or really passionate and wants you to be somebody in life. I'm just saying, Byleth does not give off any of that energy in any of their interactions with the students, or through the narrative. I understand that Byleth does not express themselves well, but they just aren't invested in their teaching role. That's completely separate from being expressive. I've had teachers who are super monotone, but I knew they gave a crap about me. Gave a crap about me and my future, and I'll never forget them. And let's just say for a second, being non-expressive did get in the way of Byleth being invested in their role. Then why are they the protagonists of a teaching game about teaching? I can't get invested in the role if the character does not care about being a teacher. Like, if Byleth is not invested, we can't get invested. It would have been very interesting to see Byleth take stake in the future and goals of their students so that we can grow more attached to their class. The goals section in the lectures is not enough because these characters are so much more than I want to learn reason and faith. If we are being intellectually honest, this is not a real exploration of the characters, and their goals are only mentioned here. What does Linhardt care about being a bishop or a support anywhere aside from his goals menu? To keep it a buck, this is just flavor text to tell you which 2 weapons he wants to gain experience in, instead of this goal mattering to Linhardt as a character. These goals should be mentioned elsewhere in their supports, since Byleth's relationship with the student should be about their future and their goals in order to properly fit in this role. The subject of the supports definitely gives off the vibes that Byleth is on a familiar level with their students, which takes away from the gimmick of this game.
Hell, he's a fucking predator, nigga. He's a weirdo.
Most of them come off as a friendly type of support instead of a mentor type of support. I would like to think a lot of the students in Byleth's class are problem children, so they wouldn't be able to reach their full potential without some intervention from a trusted adult, which could have been their instructor. For instance, you have students like Bernadetta who are failing in marks and cooperativeness, and Sylvain, who has a lot of trauma holding him back from being the man he wants to become. Byleth has a unique opportunity to be extra present in the students' lives since Garrick Mach is a boarding school, so Byleth would naturally be close to the problems and lives of their students and would thus be able to better fulfill their role. Seeing Byleth try to help these kids reach their goals would have been very interesting and unique for a social sim genre game, since most of these games tend to focus on the student perspective. However, this is the game that we're stuck with. Byleth is a bum-ass teacher who ain't do shit for them. Since Byleth doesn't really act as a standout teacher in the lives of their students, the students' fervent allegiance to Byleth makes no sense and actually ruins various characters. As it stands, it makes no sense that Ingrid or Felix would ever betray Fargus, since Byleth didn't do anything for them canonically. It should at least be required that you need a support with the character so that there is some reason they follow Byleth to the ends of the earth.
All that talk about chivalry and loyalty, only to turn against your homeland.
Maybe I'm not a knight after all. Not in the traditional sense, anyway. I've betrayed lord and family alike. And I've done so because I believe in the professor. I fight for that which I believe in.
See you later, partner!
Kill Rodrigue. Your own father, Felix.
I said I'd cut down anyone who stood in my way.
Ingrid saying this shit is wild, given this is definitely not what Glenn would have wanted. Same for Felix, spitting on his brother's memory by helping Edelgard murk Dimitri. It's insane. There's plenty of other examples where player choice is prioritized over making a convincing world with actual characters. Again, the school setting is not really built for its own merit and to tell a proper story. It's just so you can play Build-A-Bitch instead of it actually being an avenue to invest in the lives of your class like a good teacher would. Byleth easily could have been a GTO type of figure, helping the problem children really make something of themselves and defy their circumstances, tying into the very themes of the game. Three Houses at its core is largely about the circumstances of one's birth not defining your worth and potential. Just because you were a noble does not mean you should have lived that way. Just because you were born as a commoner does not mean you have to stay one. It is largely a story about self-determination that promotes social mobility. Byleth being able to promote personal growth in their students so they could defy those expectations and realize they don't need to be what's expected of them and could support whatever their true aspirations were. Byleth, on the other hand, instead of reinforcing the themes of Three Houses, actually fucks with the game's theming because of how shit they are. Byleth's an absolute tool, and I'm saying this because Byleth has no free will or opinions of their own for what they do with their life. Somebody tells them to be a cold-hearted merc killing kids like Shez and shit, they do it. Somebody tells them to become a teacher despite never having any interest in teaching or experience, they do it. Somebody tells them to be the goddamn Pope of religion they ain't know about a year ago, and they do it. An absolute tool and non-character, I'm sorry. What human behaves like this other than an absolute baboon, an absolute wrench? This is a game about self-determination, and they're not self-determining shit. Just goes with the flow and has no purpose or direction in his life. How can this goober be a guide and instructor to anyone? Now, if Byleth was well executed, they could have grown to realize they didn't want to be what Geralt set out for them, and them choosing the teaching position was some kind of rebellion against what was chosen for them. That would have tied into the theming because they're choosing for themselves for once. They chose to be a teacher because they didn't want to be the Ashen Demon anymore. They wanted to do something different. Just like Sylvain wanted to become someone other than Margrave Gautier, and Bernadetta wanted to be something other than somebody's housewife. I'm saying all this to say they blew it. They tried to break into the social sim RPG genre without really understanding what people like about it. They care about the connections and really sinking deep into an unfamiliar social role. But Byleth is so poorly executed that you can't really feel like a teacher and adopt a new persona. Pun intended. We can't have Byleth feel like a teacher because Byleth must be friends with them and tell them what they want to hear so that he can bang them later. Byleth can't be invested in their goals and have deep mentorships because, well, we don't really care about our main gimmick. Byleth is merely used as a conduit for unit customization and recruitment instead of it actually mattering to the world and characters. It's so blatantly apparent that they didn't care about fully developing the ideas presented, but instead wanting to trend chase with a social sim RPG that tragically misses the mark on what would have truly made it stand out, as compared to the juggernaut of the social sim genre. Cause genuinely I don't see things focused on the teacher perspective much at all, so it would have given it some proper legs to stand on with the competition, but lack of ability to commit and go full send fucked Three Houses once again.
Subscribe, man!
That was one take. Well, I already recorded this because I was stuttering a little bit too much, you know, my speech impediment goes off sometimes, but I hope you enjoyed that, and if you didn't, share it, send it to everybody so I can get more views. If you really were rocking with it, please join the Discord server. We are still looking for more people for the Emblem Fuse surveys. So anyways, laters.